She left work like she did every night, but within minutes, Anna Whitmore was gone, her car untouched, and her phone suddenly dead inside a public garage. For 7 years, the man who took her hid in plain sight, erasing every trace, even standing at her vigil wearing a surgical mask. But a forgotten auction car and a hidden trunk compartment finally exposed what he'd buried, and where. Now justice has a name, and the full story is ready to unfold, piece by piece, until the final truth is undeniable. On Friday, September 18th, 2018, at exactly 5:42 p.m., Anna Whitmore, 32, stepped out of the granite-columned lobby of the Kessler and Bray corporate building in downtown Louisville. The temperature that evening was an unseasonably warm 83 degrees off. Security footage showed her crossing Main Street toward the Jefferson Plaza parking deck, where she regularly left her vehicle on level 4. She wore a navy pantsuit, hair pulled into a loose braid, and carried a brown leather tote and stainless steel water bottle. She never made it home. At 6:09 p.m., Anna's fiancé, Jordan Melville, sent a text. ETA? It showed as delivered, but was never read. By 6:52 p.m., after 3 more unanswered messages, Jordan left his condo in Prospect and drove downtown, retracing her likely route. Her gray 2014 Honda Accord was still in its usual spot in the garage. No damage, no broken glass, no sign of struggle. The car was locked. I walked the whole damn deck, Jordan later told detectives, up and down. I expected to find her talking on the phone or waiting by the car, but it was like she just evaporated. By 8:17 p.m., he had flagged down a building security officer. Together they pulled camera feeds. Anna entered the garage at 5:45 p.m. She stepped into the stairwell leading to level 4B. There was no footage after that, none at all. At 8:41 p.m., Jordan made the 911 call that would launch a 7-year mystery. Transcript, Louisville 911, Sept 18, 2018, 8:41 p.m. Dispatch, 911, what's your emergency? Caller, hi, my fiancé, she's missing. She left work, never came home. I just found her car, but she's not in it and I don't know what else to do. Dispatch, what's your name, sir? Caller, Jordan Melville, Melville. Dispatch, and what's her name? Caller, Anna Whitmore, Whitmore, 32 years old. She works at Kessler and Bray, downtown. Dispatch, where are you now? Caller, Jefferson Plaza parking deck. Her car's here, but she's not. Dispatch, is the car locked? Caller, yeah, no sign of a break-in. Her work bag's not inside. Dispatch, when was the last time you saw or spoke to her? Caller, this morning, around 7:30. She texted me at lunch, normal stuff, then nothing. Dispatch, okay, officers are en route. Stay where you are. Police arrived at 8:55 p.m. and began a cursory inspection of the garage. Her car keys were missing. No purse or personal effects were found nearby. The stairwell showed no signs of a scuffle, no blood, no smudges, no dropped items. Yet within just 300 feet of where her shoes last echoed, she had simply vanished. By 9:12 p.m., officers fanned out on foot to surrounding lots and alleyways. No fresh tire marks, no abandoned belongings, no surveillance footage from neighboring rooftops. A search of Anna's phone records showed her last known GPS ping at 5:46 p.m., just 1 minute after entering the stairwell. Triangulated to a 40-foot radius inside the Jefferson deck. Then, the phone went dark. There was no Uber request, no ATM activity. Her bank accounts remained untouched. And then, at 11:03 p.m., a patrol unit made an unusual observation. A black Ford Transit van had exited the deck roughly 90 seconds after Anna entered, but it never passed through the front entrance camera. Investigators began searching for alternative exit footage. Within hours, the local missing persons protocol was activated, but by then, the trail was already cooling. And one detail stuck with the responding officers. It was as if the garage itself had swallowed her. Microcliff number 1, approximately 160 words. The car was locked. The phone was dead. And a woman who walked that route every evening for 8 years had seemingly disappeared mid-step. Microcliff number 2, approx 330 words. The last signal from her phone placed her within a concrete structure outfitted with over 40 security cameras. Yet not a single image existed beyond the stairwell. Microcliff number 3, approx. 510 words. The transit van became the first potential lead, but the license plate was unreadable, the angle obstructed by a pillar. A vehicle vanished almost in sync with Anna. Microcliff number 4, approx. 690 words. The security log showed no door alarms, no elevator tampering, but in one chilling detail, a motion sensor on level 4B recorded a brief trigger at 5:46 p.m. Then, nothing. By midnight, Anna was officially declared missing. Her profile was entered into NamUs and the Kentucky Crime Information Center. An APB went out to all surrounding counties. A grid search was scheduled for morning light, but by dawn, every second that passed deepened the silence she left behind. Cliffhanger. And in the stairwell where her footsteps last echoed, a shoe print would be found, half-smudged, muddy, and not her size. By 6:10 a.m. on September 19th, less than 13 hours since Anna Whitmore was last seen, Louisville Metro PD initiated a structured missing persons operation. The first wave focused on a 4-block radius around the Jefferson Plaza parking deck. Officers established a search perimeter, cataloging stairwells, loading docks, and rooftop access points. Weather conditions were favorable. 64 degrees at dawn, no wind, low humidity. The conditions for tracking were ideal, but the trail was already thin. Anna's car, a gray 2014 Honda Accord, remained untouched on level 4B. The key fob signal hadn't moved. Crime scene technicians processed the vehicle and surrounding concrete for fingerprints, fibers, or traces of blood. Nothing stood out. The only prints on the car belonged to Anna. Her purse and work laptop weren't inside. By 7:50 a.m., Jefferson County deployed 2 K-9 teams. One dog, Baron, picked up Anna's scent in the stairwell and followed it 2 flights down. Then, without warning, it stopped, abruptly, at a steel door leading to the lower-level loading bay. That door, crucially, had no camera coverage. No one knew how long it had been used or if it had been left unlocked the previous evening. No eyewitnesses came forward. Detective Lenora Banks was appointed as lead investigator. A 14-year veteran with a record of solving high-profile disappearances, she immediately requested access to every vehicle entry log from the parking structure. The goal was simple: identify any vehicle that entered or exited within the 15-minute window when Anna vanished. Of the 123 total entries, 4 remained unaccounted for. One in particular drew attention: a black 2016 Ford Transit van that exited just after 5:47 p.m. Its license plate wasn't captured, partially obscured by a concrete pillar. Banks met with Anna's fiancé, Jordan Melville, at the precinct later that morning. She needed to rule out the possibility of a voluntary disappearance. Did Anna have enemies? Was she depressed? Did she ever talk about needing space? No, Jordan said, staring across the table. We were planning a wedding. She was looking at dresses last week. You don't buy lace samples and pick flower colors if you're planning to vanish. Banks asked about routines. Jordan explained that Anna left the office around 5:30 every day, walked across Main Street to the Jefferson deck, parked in the same row, always under the lights. It was a route she'd taken hundreds of times without incident. By late afternoon, flyers had begun appearing across the city. Anna's face, smiling, confident, a corporate badge clipped to her blouse, was now pinned to gas pumps, taped to stop signs, shared across Facebook and Nextdoor. A dedicated tip line received 87 calls in the first 24 hours. Most were noise. One claimed to have seen a woman fitting her description boarding a Greyhound bus to St. Louis. Another said she was arguing with a man in a suit near a downtown alley. Both tips led nowhere. At 10:17 p.m., a patrol officer flagged something easily missed: a partial shoe print in a rain-damp alley 2 blocks east of the garage. It wasn't Anna's size. It was a men's 11, embedded in soft grit behind a commercial dumpster. The impression matched the kind of tactical sole found on delivery boots or van drivers' workwear. It was bagged, catalogued, and entered into evidence. That same night, a drone equipped with forward-looking infrared was deployed to scan the area from above. It mapped rooftops, heat sources, and alley gaps between buildings. No anomalies, no warm bodies, no motion. At 11:58 p.m., a digital forensics officer reviewing the raw feed logs from the garage's CCTV system uncovered a single 19-second gap in coverage. Camera 6, the one trained directly on the 2A stairwell door, had experienced a dropout at 5:46 p.m., the exact time Anna's phone had gone offline. The glitch wasn't noticed at the time because the system defaulted to static during brief outages. The 19 seconds passed unnoticed. No backup footage existed. Investigators marked it in the timeline. A dark door, a blind camera, a vanished woman. If someone took her, they had known what they were doing. They had known where the lens ended and when to move. If you'd still be searching 2 days later, comment HOPE below. Every voice keeps cold cases alive, and inside those 19 missing seconds they feared might be the only footage that ever showed what happened to Anna Whitmore. By the morning of September 20th, Anna Whitmore had been missing for just over 36 hours. Her photo was now on gas station TVs, courthouse bulletin boards, and every local news outlet from Lexington to southern Indiana. The urgency had escalated. This was no longer a quiet disappearance. The city knew her name. A formal volunteer base was established that morning inside St. John's Community Church, just 3 blocks from the garage. Cots, bottled water, printed maps. By noon, over 60 civilians, co-workers, former classmates, retirees had checked in, ready to search. Detectives worked in parallel. Vehicle entry logs from the Jefferson Plaza deck had revealed 4 unidentified plates in the crucial half-hour window. Of those, one had already drawn special attention. A black 2016 Ford Transit van, grainy and half-obscured, exiting the garage at 5:47 p.m., the same minute Anna's phone stopped transmitting. Unmarked, no windows in back, no visible decals, Detective Banks recorded in her notes. Possibly modified, possibly commercial. With no plate, they were left chasing a shadow. Security footage from nearby intersections showed hundreds of cars that evening, but none clearly matched the van. One frame from a liquor store camera captured what might have been the same vehicle turning onto 6th Street. The resolution was too poor to confirm. On the ground, search teams worked block by block. One group scoured a storm drain running behind the mail sorting facility. Another checked rooftops along Market Street. A maintenance worker at the Courier-Journal building gave permission to access their fire escape. Nothing turned up. No clothing, no bag, no paper trail. At 3:17 p.m., a local station aired an edited interview with a man named Ellis Kane. Homeless, middle-aged, and known to local officers, he claimed to have seen a woman matching Anna's description near a van 2 nights ago. His version changed 3 times under questioning. Ultimately, detectives dismissed the account as unreliable. But something else emerged. A woman named Rochelle, who worked in the adjacent building, came forward. She hadn't seen the incident but remembered something odd. A fire alarm that briefly sounded at 5:47 p.m. on Tuesday, then stopped. She hadn't reported it. It didn't go off long, maybe 10 seconds. I thought it was a test. The fire alarm panel, as it turned out, was hardwired to the same circuit that powered camera 6. It was enough to suggest one thing. Someone might have killed the feed on purpose. Her face was everywhere, but Anna was nowhere. And a van, real or imagined, had moved through the garage at the perfect moment, unseen and untraced. It wasn't a disappearance anymore. It was beginning to look like a removal, a clean extraction, and the gap between her last known step and the world's first search had lasted less than 2 minutes. By September 21st, the 3rd full day without Anna Whitmore, media attention had reached saturation. Local anchors opened every broadcast with her name. National outlets began calling the precinct for comment. The story had spread across the Midwest, and now it was spreading online. A composite timeline was released to the press, Anna's last confirmed location at 5:45 p.m., the moment her phone stopped at 5:46, and the unexplained 19-second blackout on camera 6. The public responded fast. Tips poured in, over 250 in less than 36 hours. Most were noise. Some were strange. A man in southern Ohio claimed to have found Anna's ID in a hotel bathroom. False. A YouTube conspiracy channel speculated she'd faked her disappearance as performance art. Debunked. A psychic called the hotline and insisted she was buried under trees, near water, close to something metal. There were no trees in downtown Louisville. Detectives followed every serious lead. But inside the task force room, momentum had started to slow. The transit van, still unidentified, remained the only thread. At Detective Banks's request, officers began canvassing garages across a 15-mile radius, private lots, storage units, shuttered buildings, anywhere a van could have been stashed or abandoned. Then came the call from a warehouse security firm across the river in New Albany. Their manager had checked old footage from Tuesday night. At 5:52 p.m., a dark vehicle, possibly a van, was seen traveling west on Spring Street at high speed, headlights off. The timestamp matched, but the angle was wrong. The plate unreadable. Still, it was movement. It extended the search zone across state lines. Meanwhile, Anna's office, Kessler and Bray, received its own scrutiny. Detectives interviewed her supervisor, HR rep, and several co-workers. Nothing unusual surfaced. She had no active disputes, no record of threats. But one receptionist mentioned something subtle. Anna had stopped riding the elevator the week before, chose the stairs every day. I asked her about it, the receptionist said. She said it felt safer, said she didn't like being alone in enclosed spaces lately. No one could explain what had changed. That afternoon, police returned to the Jefferson Plaza deck for another sweep, this time bringing forensic light sources and chemical tests. A faint transfer smear was found on the inner handle of the stairwell door leading to level 2A. It wasn't blood. It was a trace of waxy residue, possibly from gloves, possibly latex. They were too late for a clean sample. That night, at a vigil on the courthouse lawn, Jordan stood behind a bank of microphones, flanked by Anna's parents. Over 300 people gathered, holding candles. "We don't know where she is," he said quietly. "But we know someone does, and we are not going away." Across the crowd, a news crew panned over rows of faces. One man, wearing a blue jacket and surgical mask, stood alone near the back. He never came forward. No one got his name. And back in the evidence room, Anna's belongings sat boxed and tagged, untouched, undisturbed, and telling investigators nothing. Nearly 5 years passed. After the first month, the daily coverage slowed. After 6, the hotline calls stopped. By the end of year 1, Anna Whitmore's name had settled into that quiet category reserved for the unsolved, spoken in past tense, referenced only during anniversaries or late-night forums. The official status, cold case. Detective Banks remained attached to it for another 18 months, cycling through leads that never panned out. In 2020, she retired. Her final note in the file: case requires reactivation pending new physical evidence or credible witness. Anna's parents, Howard and Marlene Whitmore, moved out of Kentucky in 2021. Their home, once the unofficial command post for search efforts, was sold in silence. The framed photos came off the walls. The porch flyers faded and peeled. They left no forwarding address. Jordan stayed longer, much longer. He refused to move Anna's belongings from their shared apartment. The closet remained untouched. Her email account, still monitored, occasionally pinged with spam or promotional updates from wedding vendors she'd contacted in 2018. Every year on September 18th, he posted the same 3 words on his feed: still looking, still here. But without new evidence, the case stayed in limbo. Then in February 2025, a mechanic named Carlos Redford, working out of a salvage lot in Hardin County, purchased a rusted-out 2009 Chrysler 300 at auction. It had been sitting in a private impound for years after a tax seizure. The owner was never identified. The car was sold in bulk with others, unregistered, unpaid, unclaimed. Carlos began restoration in his off hours. Stripping out old paneling, he reached the trunk and noticed something unusual. Beneath the liner was a false floor, crudely mounted plywood, sealed at the edges with black caulk. It wasn't factory. He pried it up. Inside, buried under a rotted sheet of carpet and decades of debris, were 2 objects. 1. A mud-caked high heel, navy blue, with a torn heel strap. The other, a laminated ID badge clipped to a bent retractable lanyard. Name: Anna Whitmore Company, Kessler and Bray. Status: still listed as missing property. Carlos didn't know her name, but his girlfriend did. She recognized Anna's face instantly. She'd seen it years ago, on posters, on candle vigils, on a late-night documentary stream. Within 24 hours, the car was in police custody. Crime scene technicians confirmed the badge was not a plant. Fibers from the trunk matched Anna's missing blouse. The heel, though degraded, was consistent with the pair she'd worn the day she vanished. DNA swabs returned partial profiles, one degraded, one male, not immediately matched in CODIS. It was the break they had waited 7 years for, and in the corners of the trunk lining, police found tiny traces of dried, hardened soil. Clay-heavy, deep red, with flecks of coal ash. Not city dirt. Rural. A new search radius was drawn, 30 miles south, in the back roads of Meade and Hardin counties. If you believe cold cases deserve second chances, comment "Find her" below. Justice waits as long as it takes, and under a false floor, inside a forgotten car, the first trace of Anna Whitmore had finally come to light. The Chrysler 300 was transported to the Louisville Metro Evidence Garage on February 19, 2025. Forensics teams worked around the clock. Every panel, every fiber, every screw was cataloged. This wasn't just a vehicle. It was now a container of context, the first real bridge between Anna Whitmore's last known steps and the man or men who had hidden her trail for 7 years. The soil samples pulled from the trunk weren't just consistent. They were geographically distinct. Lab analysis confirmed they contained trace amounts of iron-rich clay and fly ash, the kind produced by coal-burning operations. One compound, crystalline aluminosilicate, narrowed the soil's origin to a 6-mile strip near Brandenburg, Kentucky. Within days, sonar teams from Kentucky Fish and Wildlife were dispatched to that stretch of Hardin County. Using a Kongsberg EM2040 multi-beam system mounted to an aluminum skiff, they scanned the backwaters and retention ponds near several decommissioned facilities. At 11:42 a.m. on the second day of scanning, the team flagged an anomaly. A long, rectangular object partially submerged in the shallows behind a scrap metal yard that had closed in 2017. The reading was uneven, possibly disturbed. Divers were called in. Meanwhile, DNA analysts at the Kentucky State Crime Lab worked to isolate the male profile found in the Chrysler's trunk. There was no direct match in CODIS. But then, a familial link was flagged. Partial overlap with a previous offender's profile from a 1999 misdemeanor case. That man had a younger brother, Lawrence Lowell Darnell, age 44. Last known address, abandoned trailer lot in Meade County. No active employment. No recent tax returns. Detectives pulled Lowell's DMV photo. They compared it to footage taken from the 2018 vigil, the man in the surgical mask, standing alone at the back. It was him. They issued a locate order immediately. At 7:12 p.m., officers arrived at the last known location of Lowell Darnell's residence. The trailer had been burned down years earlier. But beneath a pile of rotted furniture, officers found a tool chest. Inside, several folded plastic lanyards melted from heat, one with the Kessler and Bray logo still faintly visible. It wasn't a confession, but it was proof of proximity. Back at the dive site, the ROV pilot lowered a tethered camera into the dark, copper-colored water. Visibility was limited. The object was metal, partially crushed, but intact enough to make out shape. A 55-gallon drum, sealed with industrial clamps, wedged in silt 6 feet below the surface. Divers prepared for retrieval at first light, and in a separate lab, another tech flagged something easily overlooked. The heel recovered from the Chrysler bore microscopic gouges, cut marks made by a flathead screwdriver, suggesting it had been pried off while the shoe was still being worn. Anna's case, once cold, had become a live wire. Everything was in motion now, soil, water, blood, and time collapsing toward a single point. The search zone had a name. The suspect had a face. And deep underwater, in a forgotten pond behind a dead scrapyard, a sealed container waited to be opened. At 6:04 a.m. on February 27, 2025, divers from the Kentucky State Police Special Operations Unit entered the pond near the defunct scrapyard off Mill Creek Road. Water temperature, 45 degrees. Depth, just under 6 feet. Visibility, 0. They worked by feel. The object, metallic, industrial, was a rusted 55-gallon drum wedged tightly in sediment. After 2 hours, it was surfaced by lift bags and secured in a containment cradle. On land, forensic techs broke the seal with pneumatic cutters. Inside, a mixture of silt, rotted plastic, and tightly packed fabric bundles. Among the first items retrieved, another navy blue high heel, matching the one found in the Chrysler. Next, a deteriorated office blazer, size 6, label faded but still legible, Loft. Finally, human remains, partially mummified due to anaerobic conditions. An immediate visual ID wasn't possible, but the first DNA swab, taken from molar pulp, returned in 72 hours. It was Anna Whitmore. At the same time, detectives tracked down Lowell Darnell in West Memphis, Arkansas, living under an alias. He was arrested outside a shuttered RV park without incident. In his possession, a prepaid flip phone, 3 burner debit cards, and a ring of keys, one of which matched the trunk lock of the Chrysler 300. At 2:41 p.m. on March 1, 2025, a press conference was held at Louisville Metro HQ. Sheriff Dana Kincaid stood before a packed room of reporters. We can now confirm that the remains recovered in Hardin County last week are those of Anna Whitmore, missing since September 18, 2018. We have made one arrest. This was not random. This was premeditated. From the press gallery, the first question came quickly. Was this a serial offender? We're not discussing patterns at this time. Is there evidence she was held after her disappearance? We believe she was deceased within 24 hours of being taken. Why wasn't he found sooner? We are investigating that too. The sheriff looked tired. Jordan Whitmore was not present. Neither were Anna's parents. A statement was read on their behalf. We are grateful. We are shattered. We thank every person who did not forget her. The live stream reached 4.2 million viewers in 48 hours. If you never stopped believing they'd find her, comment "justice" below. The answers may take years, but the truth will not stay buried. And in the final line of the autopsy request form, beneath the cause of death and specimen ID, someone had typed, "Found." Anna Whitmore was laid to rest on March 12, 2025, in a quiet cemetery outside Prospect, Kentucky, the same one where her grandparents were buried. The service was private, no cameras, no microphones, just family, close friends, and a wind so still it made the silence feel heavier than the soil. But for the public, the case was far from over. Detectives now faced the full task of reconstructing what happened between the time Anna stepped into the Jefferson Plaza stairwell and the moment her body was sealed into an oil drum and sunk in a forgotten pond. Every item recovered was reprocessed, every earlier assumption reevaluated. The Chrysler 300, previously impounded and stripped, was re-examined inch by inch. Forensic vacuuming pulled fresh particles from under the rear seats, red clay, a shard of nylon strap, and 2 black synthetic fibers. Those fibers matched the liner used in the type of industrial gloves worn by maintenance crews and cargo workers. On Anna's recovered ID badge, minute scratches indicated it had been removed forcefully, dragged upward, not unclipped. On the navy high heel, gouges on both the arch and the heel stem suggested not just force, but restraint, like the shoes had been pried off while her legs were immobilized. What emerged was a pattern, not of chaos, but of control. Lowell Darnell, 44, unemployed, had a history that slipped through cracks. Minor arrests in 3 states, never violent, but always mobile. For years he had worked as a temp contractor, janitorial, delivery, waste removal, under different names. From 2015 to 2018, he'd worked briefly as a contracted night cleaner in the building next to Kessler and Bray. A service entrance linked their garages. No one had flagged it. He would have known the stairwells, the blind spots, the camera patterns, and, crucially, the exit routes. Inside his storage unit in Arkansas, detectives found a collection of city parking passes, all expired, from various downtown garages. They also found printouts, Anna's work photo, saved from the firm's website. Several were marked with red circles around her ID badge, but even as the pieces assembled, one question remained unanswered. Why her? No evidence of a personal relationship. No signs she ever knew him. No motive in the conventional sense. FBI profilers were brought in. Their conclusion? Opportunistic targeting with prior surveillance. Not rage, not obsession. Patterned predation, masked as randomness. He'd watched, waited, and on the right day, moved fast enough to erase a person in under 2 minutes. Back at the scrapyard pond, further dredging uncovered 2 more sealed drums. Empty, rusted, but cleaned. Police feared this wasn't the first time. They began pulling unsolved missing person files within a 100-mile radius, focused on women aged 25-40, last seen near parking structures or freight access buildings. 3 cases rose to the top, each stalled for years. None yet proven connected. One of those women, like Anna, had vanished near a transit van parked without a plate. But Darnell refused to speak. During interrogation, he sat motionless for most of the 93-minute session, responding only twice. The first, when asked about the Chrysler. Wasn't mine. Bought it off a guy in E-Town. Don't remember his name. The second, when shown Anna's photo. She shouldn't have been there. And that was it. No apology. No detail. No denial. In the weeks that followed, the case transformed into something larger. Discussions on how long-forgotten impound lots hold secrets, how incomplete camera grids leave holes in busy cities, how cold cases stay cold not from lack of effort, but from the absence of something as simple as a glove fiber or a 19-second blackout. Anna Whitmore's legacy became more than a story of tragedy. It became a case study. Kessler and Bray, her former employer, launched an annual safety grant in her name. Louisville Metro updated protocols on stairwell surveillance and cross-building access audits. A local law, Whitmore Provision 45, was passed, requiring extended retention of private garage surveillance in suspected abduction zones. Anna had vanished, but she had changed something. In the final court filing, submitted by the Commonwealth of Kentucky in preparation for trial, the state's opening line read, "This is a case about the quiet erasure of a woman who left work one evening and never came home. Until now." If you believe stories like Anna's must be told, not just once but remembered, share this documentary. Like, comment, and subscribe to help her name remain part of the conversation. Justice came late, but it came.